Okay, so a little bit of a different video today, not your regular gameplay. We'll be coming back to that shortly, but today we have two motors from Solink. This one is already up on their website. I'll put the link in the video description, maybe a screenshot on the screen now. But the more interesting one for the moment, and we'll put this aside, is this one right here. From what I've heard, this motor will come at a very competitive price for a brushless motor. This specific one that I have right here is a 31K. What makes this super interesting would be the lower price point, especially for lower end guns or cheaper, more budget oriented, because that's where it's gonna make the most difference for the cheap price that it's gonna have. Well, cheap compared to other brushless options we had until now. What I want to do right now is I'm gonna put a battery in a polymer SR4, which is pretty budget. It's not the cheapest thing you can get out there, but it's budget. It has a basic ETU, and I'm gonna shoot it a couple of times. Maybe I'll even put on the screen the waveform so you can see basically the duration of how long it takes to cycle. Right now it's set up with pre-cocking. I don't remember, I think it's level 3 out of 5. Actually, maybe I'll just turn it off. Okay, so I've just put a battery in this polymer SR4. Basically stock, it's been shimmed, and I think I put a servo pad on the cylinder head. Anyways, it's basically a stock gun, stock motor, that's the most important thing. Height has been adjusted, so it's an optimal height. Now let's see how it sounds and how fast it is on semi. I'll put the waveform with the duration on screen. And let's also do a burst of full auto. And just by judging how many shots we have on screen, how many peaks, you will be able to see what's the rough rate of fire without actually needing to use a chrono to measure it. So let's see full auto. It's actually pretty decent. Now what I'm gonna do is disconnect the battery and swap the motor for the Solink one and see how that performs. One of the bigger advantages of brushless motors is a response time. They spin up much faster, they don't have the delay of a classic brushed motor, in case you didn't already know that. Second one is much lower power consumption, so that results in a more efficient motor. It's not gonna drain as much battery for the same amount of shots. It will also not heat up almost at all, only on very high stress builds, and basically gives you a much better trigger feel for the money. So I've just installed the red Solink brushless motor in this SR4. Another advantage of these new motors is the fact that you won't need a MOSFET or an ETU that's specifically designed to work with brushless motors. In the past, in the good old days of Warhead and option number 1, if you had a MOSFET that had fixed active brake, or you couldn't turn active braking off, that may have killed the brushless motors in the past, like again Warhead and option number 1s. Apparently these new Solink motors, the ESC inside doesn't care about that anymore. It applies its own braking current and it basically overrides the active brake that your existing ETU or MOSFET delivers. Now let's take a listen on how this one sounds with the, let's call it budget Solink brushless motor at 31K with 11.1 LiPo. It's not fully charged, it's around 3.9 volts per cell, but you should get the idea. It's the same charge it was on the stock motor. So let's do semi. And for good measure, let's do a burst of full auto, and then we'll compare it with the previous one, basically count the shots and see what would be the rate of fire with the new brushless motor. Spicy. Now, considering on this gun specifically, but there's other guns that have this, the quick release on the bottom here makes this job super easy. Swapping out the motor, you just pull this little safety thing, grab a pair of pliers, remove the motor plate, and boom, there's your motor. You don't need to undo any screws, anything like that. Now let's take another example. This is a SR9 DSG version. It's pink because it was built for somebody special, but this one has a stock an average 24K high torque motor, standard for the DSG. Let's do the same thing basically. Drop the budget option Solink brushless motor and see basically what improvements it brings to the table. So first, this is going to be the stock motor. Let's do semi. Remember, it's a DSG, so it's going to be snappier. Let's do a short burst of full auto. This should be around 33, 35 BBs a second. And now I'm going to go ahead, change the motor, and we'll do this again. Now the Solink brushless motor is installed, and let's give it the same test. Do some shots on semi. And now let's do a bunch of full auto. I chronoed this before, and this is about 45 to 47 RPS. Big improvement. In average, probably 10 RPS from the previous setup with a 24K motor. Yes, this is a higher speed motor, is a 31K, but the efficiency of a brushless motor is higher than of a standard brush motor. So for the same RPM, let's say, you will get roughly 10%, 5 to 10% more RPS just because it's a brushless and it's more efficient to run. Also, as I said in the beginning, where this type of motor shines is in either high stress builds or for people who use a lot of semi. So for example, with 1 joule, 1.5 joule gun, where you either have binary on or you're just spamming semi in a CQB or outdoor scenario, you'll notice that with a regular brushed motor, after let's say 1 or 2 meg dumps, you will see the grip getting hotter and hotter. And if you check it, even the wires going to the battery will also get pretty hot because of the high amp draw of a brushed motor. Now I don't have a ETU in here that can actually measure that, but in my other DSG, which has a gate Titan, I can tell you that the battery drawn current for a brushed 30K was around 1 milliamp per shot, and with a brushless motor a little bit slower, but still providing higher RPS just because of the efficiency, it was 0.18 milliamps per shot. So that's basically 5 times lower current draw, and that translates into less heat, more shots per the same charge or per the same battery, and in the end a little bit of higher RPS. Okay, so this is the test with the Solink brushless in a stock SSR9, the budget option from Solink. Let's see how it does.
As you can see, the trigger response is amazing. Yes, it's already a DSG, but the low startup time of a brushless motor helps you get even better trigger response and just gives you a more complete gun, giving you a competitive edge and getting rid of all the heat generated by a brushed motor, eating less battery, basically giving you a better experience. Hope you enjoyed this review. There's gonna be another one coming for the more advanced programmable blue version of the Solink. I think it's called the V5. So see you in the next one.